How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the channel. With Terrifier 3 right around the corner, I decided to go ahead and check out All Hallows Eve. This is Damien and Leone's directorial debut. It's also the feature film debut of Art the Clown. The film revolves around a babysitter watching these two kids, and out of nowhere, after going trick-or-treating, they find a VHS tape in their sack. They have no idea exactly how it got there, and they don't know exactly what's on this tape, so they convince their babysitter to let them watch the tape just to make sure it's perfectly safe for them. Now, I am a big fan of anthology movies. I absolutely love them because you can get really creative with these movies, whether you're trying to tie in a lot of stories together or you're just trying to stand on its own, kind of like what Trick or Treat and Halloween 3 Season of the Witch do, which I am probably in the minority that really enjoys Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, and I think Trick or Treat really gets creative with the anthology side. So when I found out that this movie was going to be an anthology, that we were going to be following these little series of short films on this VHS tape, I was already going to be automatically hooked, but I thought it was going to be an anthology movie in the way that the A to Z movies are, or kind of in the same vein as the VHS series. So seeing this movie kind of have a somewhat narrative story is something that I wasn't the biggest fan of, because even though I can definitely see Damien Leone's touch in here, you can see his creative eye for not just the practical effects but also his way of storytelling. I think you can definitely tell that this movie was made by a first-time director. There are a lot of mistakes that he makes in this movie that I wasn't really the biggest fan of, mostly because of the way that the movie is kind of cut up. We're following this babysitter as she's watching these tapes, and the kids are kind of sent to bed after the first short film with Art the Clown, and so she continues to watch these tapes. The thing about anthology movies is that you're supposed to be invested in the short films that we are following. And since this movie is directed by one person telling this one narrative story, I thought it was an okay way of telling the story, because we're bouncing back and forth from the short segments on the tape to the babysitter watching the tapes and making sure the kids are asleep. So in that kind of way, I wasn't the biggest fan of that kind of storytelling, because I kind of would have really enjoyed to watch all these short films kind of take place in one narrative way. But I can see what he is going for, and I can appreciate that as far as a first-time director. But when it comes down to a lot of the segments in here, a lot of the segments really weren't for me. I think this is going to be really a film that kind of showcases what Art the Clown can do before we get into Terrifier. Even with Art the Clown in here, they really don't do much in here, and I think it's because of the way the movie was being told. With this being Art the Clown's first time on screen, this time around we have Mike Giannelli. I do apologize if I butchered the name. I think the way that he portrays Art the Clown in here is okay, even though they really don't give him much to do in this movie, because he just shows up for the first segment and then he shows up for the last 20 minutes. So they really don't get to do a lot with Art the Clown in here. And I just wasn't really invested in anything that happens in that middle section with those other little short films. They weren't investing enough. I was getting bored by them, and I kind of just wanted to see a little bit more of Art the Clown. I will give credit where credit is due. The way that the movie wraps up, I thought that was really creative, and I could have gotten on board with that ending if everything else leading up to that moment was a little bit more investing, a little bit more exciting, and a little bit more fun. But you can definitely tell the love that Damien Leone put to this movie. You can definitely tell that he was trying to do something with this movie. It just didn't work for me on not just a storytelling level, but trying to get me invested with the whole storyline. I think the ending of the movie is pretty clever. I really had a lot of fun with that, but everything else to me was just a big snooze fest. I really loved the aesthetics that he has in this movie that then follows to Terrifier and Terrifier 2 with that 70s grindhouse feel, that dirty, grimy look. But overall, this movie was just not for me. I can see his creative eye and I can see what he was trying to do. It just didn't work in this narrative that he was trying to tell. I just wish he was able to do something a little bit better and get me invested a little bit more on the little anthology stories that we have going on here. I'll give him credit for the ending. I thought that was pretty clever and I like what he was trying to do, but overall it's is just one that kind of left me a little disappointed. But those are my thoughts on All Hallows Eve. Have you guys checked it out? Is this a movie for you, or is this the movie that you just don't like? Go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys for the next video.